what God's done for you, and into the future, in the present, in the future. And I was just thinking about what Mark was talking about last night, thinking about significant moments in your life, especially the ones with God. And so as we're singing this song, I just really want everybody to remember those moments that they wrote down or other ones, and sing to themselves about how God's been faithful to them. And then I want you all to sing to each other about reminding each other how good God is, and then also just sing to God and thank Him for the fact that even though He is God and the Creator, that He loves you and wants to be in a relationship with you. So, yeah, let's praise the Lord. joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Oh, count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be.
But I want you to look at the person next to you, and remember, if you're looking at the person next to you, just double check that the person on the other side has someone to connect with as well. If they don't, pull them into a group of three. I want you to go, this is the best pizza experience I ever had, okay? And you have 30 seconds to describe that to the other person, and then you got to listen to their story too, all right? You're the best pizza moment you've had. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, being from Chicago originally, I hope someone in here had their experience with the cheese on the bottom and the sauce on the top. Anybody? Chicago-style pizza? Oh, I dream about that sometimes. Go too far away. That's not close by. But hey, we're gonna do a little bit of a review here to see kind of where we've been to kind of catch up to where we are going to be this morning. And first of all, okay, I need help here. What is this? Thank you. It's not a trick question. This is a cup. And cups usually have like a couple of purposes to them. One is to hold a liquid, right? Because if it doesn't hold a liquid, it's kind of failing at what it's designed to do, right? But it's also got to give it away. Because if this is full of water and I'm really thirsty and I can't get water out of this, what good is this to me, right? So a cup has two basic purposes. One is to hold liquid and the other is to give it away. And I like to use this idea of a cup as a picture of how God has created us. I want you to look at that person that you're telling the pizza story to. I want you to say, you are a cup. Okay? All right. So, sup, cup. All right. So here's what I mean by this. God created us to both know him and to give him away. Right? He designed and created us to know him and to give him away. Now, there is a problem that happened. Can I use your help real quick, Zach? What I need you to do, I just need you to destroy that cup. Okay, stomp on it. Okay, we'll pick it up. Is it thoroughly? Thank you. Okay, yes, that's good. That's enough. Oh, my goodness. All right. Now I have 3 cups. You did that very well. Thank you. All right, so, no, stop. Okay, so here's the deal. Sin happened, right? We're broken. We are no longer able to do what we were designed to do. God created us to know him. This no longer has the capacity to know God. Right? So I want to see this here. Jonathan, why don't you stand up here real quick? And I want you to hold this real quick. Last night we talked about here, hold it up so everybody can see. We're going to try to hold it over the bucket so we get most of this water. All right. God created us as a cup to know him. Now, this morning, right, the shalom of God, the peace of God, the grace of God, God is inviting us to walk through life with him as a friend, right? To know him through the good, the bad, the difficult, the celebrations of life, and we're to know him. And he's pouring out his presence to us. 1 Peter, may God's grace and peace pour out on you more and more abundantly, right? All over the Bible, right? May you know God over and over. His forgiveness, his goodness, his compassion, his forgiveness, right? And he's wanting to walk with us day by day, moment by moment, step by step, so that right? That peace of God that restores completeness. Now, here's the problem, right? We no longer have the capacity to hold, right? We're not, and so what we need God to do is take us who've been broken, right? Remember this morning, hold that up, the shalom of God. That shalom is that idea that God restores to what we were designed to be. He gives wholeness and completeness. All right, here, hold it there. Now, we sometimes go, all right, we're going to go through life and go, okay, I had a great time at youth group. We come to retreat, and I'm good. I'm full. And God's going, no, I have plenty more to give. This is not what God designed for us to live through life like. What he's wanting us to do is to know and experience him and walk through and feel his grace and his goodness and his compassion so that we begin to overflow. Okay? Now, I need a couple people to help me out. Okay? All right, so right here, right there. Yep, come on, you come up. All right, and you too. All right, so here we go. We're going to do the best here. I'm going to give each of you a cup here. Go ahead here, I'll give you a cup. And then why don't you come on over here? You can come on right over here. I'm going to step back and out of the way. I want you guys to put your cups right by Jonathan's cup. And here's the thing. This is the amazing thing. Last night I said, hey, I want you guys to share your stories with each other, your significant moments, and even those moments where you see God intersecting your life. And the fun thing about this is God is going, I want you to walk through life together as friends. And as you do, as you get to know the goodness and the grace of God, right? Okay, stop here for a second. You just did something that was pretty neat. You moved your cup down, right? Because you wanted to get what's going here. And we often do that. We get this picture of like, okay, you're the one that's really spiritual. And so you'll go to God and get what God, and then you'll bring it to me, right? No, that is not the way it's supposed to be. Moses on Mount Sinai, God said, I want all the people. I want you to be a nation of priests. I want all of you people. And everybody went, no. God's a little scary. Moses, you go for us. And God's going, no. I want this, so everybody up so the lips of your cups are all together. So he goes, I want you to go through life so that as you get to know who God is and you get to know who God is, you begin to overflow and fill each other's cups, and you get to see the grace and goodness of God overflow in a unique and amazing way, and the stories of what God is doing and filling each other's lives get to go back and forth. And so God uses your friend to help you grow closer to God. You kind of see what I'm getting at there? This is a picture of what it looks like to become friends who follow Jesus together. As we get to know God and share the stories of what he's doing in our life, and it begins to spill and splash out, and it is messy but fun to see what God is doing. Okay, you guys can put your cups back in the bucket. And then give them a big hand, and you guys can have a seat. Go ahead, have a seat. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at today. And what this morning is going to all be about is this idea of, I'm running out of water. We're having too much fun. What happens if I go through life, and God's pouring out his goodness and grace, and I start to go, okay, that was great, and then I come back, and okay, that's great, and God's saying, no, I want you to align your heart with God's heart so you don't miss out on what God is doing. So that's kind of what this morning's going to be about, and I love to use this picture of pizza to do this, and I'm going to we're going to kind of continue with that pizza moment thing real quick. So the people you were talking to earlier, what makes the best pizza? We're going to start with crust, okay? Thin crust, hand tossed, deep dish, or you want the pizza pocket thing, right? So go to the person next to you. What makes the best crust? Okay, next one, toppings. We're going to just stick with meats here, okay? Sausage, pepperoni, bacon, chicken. You're like, everything. Okay. Round 2, toppings, veggies. The Oh, I didn't think of them. Nice. All of them? You just pile it on. Okay, here your alternative pizza. Your weird pizza. Barbecue chicken, Hawaiian, chicken Alfredo, taco.
What if you had a cross of both? I'm thinking yesterday for
Okay. I'm gonna see here with this. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me a little bit. It's always nice to talk about like pizza or cheeseburgers. We always have our favorite kind of toppings and way we would like to form and create our own pizza. And, we look at that a little uniquely and differently. This morning, I want us to kind of keep this mind inside of this picture of a pizza as we start to look at our own life, okay? And as we do this, I want it to be ringing in the back of our minds this idea that Jesus is inviting us, asking us to let him be involved in every aspect of our life. Basically, what he's saying is, hey, I'm going to pour out my presence, my goodness and faithfulness and compassion, my shalom, and I'm inviting you to bring your life underneath God and experience what that heart alignment with God looks like in every aspect of your life. So this morning, as we talk and we kind of reflect on our lives and how it looks, and this, I want this to be ringing in the back of your mind here. On your notes there, what page is that? It's page 12, and that top half of page 12. I want you to just think through for a minute a typical month, okay? For you in a typical month. What do you spend the most time doing in a typical month? And just up here, I'm going to just throw out some categories just to help jog your mind and memory. Just jot some notes down. How do you spend your time in a typical month? Okay, maybe home. You probably spend some time at home with your family, whatever that family makeup looks like, right? You've got friends, and there might be different circles or ways you connect with those friends, but you probably have friends that you spend time with. For some of us, work. For some of us, that's a little slice of pizza. For some of us, that's a huge slice of pizza, right? But work. Maybe you have a little part-time. Maybe work for you is like you come home and your parents are like, here's the list of things I need you to do, right? Work. Church. I mean, we are here, right? So church is probably one of those slices of pizza in your life that you have. How about meals? Who do you spend time eating with? Whether at school, at home, I don't know. We spend a lot of time eating. So who do you eat with? Hobbies. Now, okay, hobbies, this is like a junk drawer kind of category, right? 2 years ago, I was at our high school picture day for all the clubs. Holy cow, I had no idea. 90 different clubs in our school. And that didn't even include like your normal like basketball team and baseball or all that. I'm like, every 15 minutes a club was getting their picture taken all day long. It's like, we're involved in a lot of stuff, right? So do you have a club or extracurricular? Maybe it's band, maybe it's cheerleading, maybe it's lacrosse or soccer or football. Are you involved in something? Do you do something? Harry Potter club, right? School. Some of us wish that slice of pizza was a little smaller, but let's just be honest. It's a pretty big chunk of thing, right? How about this? Our digital life. Whether that's gaming, it's TikTok, whether it's whatever that means for you, right? What about your digital life? And then this neighbors thing, I'm going to kind of put that a little loosely too. Maybe it's the people you live around. Maybe you go, yep, I head into town, I go to the grocery store, I'd go do this thing or that thing, and yep, there's that cashier that's always there, or, the people you interact with kind of on a daily basis, or a weekly basis, or a monthly basis, right? The people you see. Maybe you don't know them really well, but they live down the street, or there's that kid who rides your bus, or there's you know what I mean, right? We'll just call them neighbors. So take a couple seconds. Jot some notes down. How do you spend your typical month? If your life was to be chopped up in slices of pizza, what would you label those slices as? What does the pattern and pace and relationships of your life look like? I have to put little brother on there because I am the little brother. So, you better be spending time with your little brother. No. Whether you like it or not, right? What would your life look like? Now, here's the thing. I hope you know that God is much more pleased with you being honest with him than you just giving the right answer. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm supposed to say this, so I'll say this. There's a lot of times in the Bible where you read through Jesus' life and people are giving him the answers that they think he wants to hear, and he calls them on it. And he goes, no. Be honest with me. And it's the people who are honest with him, those are the ones that he goes, okay, we have something we can work with. We can go somewhere with this. But it's the ones that give him the answers that they think he wants to hear, that he goes, until you're honest with yourself and with God, we can't really go much anywhere. So, honestly, typical living, the way we typically live, one of those slices of pizza is for Jesus, right? I've got, whether it's soccer or football or band, I've got the people I'm online gaming with, I've got the friends that I hang out with, I've got school, I've got these things, and Jesus is a part of my life. That's normal, typical living. And throughout the Gospels, you see these intersection moments where Jesus intersects the lives of people, and he goes, this is how you've been living, but I want to challenge you to live differently. I want you to think about life in a different way. We all have areas of life that we want to hang on to. And it's harder to go, okay, God, you can have this part of my life. You can be involved in this part of my life too. Let's be honest, right? There are certain parts of our life that are easier than others to give over to God. And there's some parts of our life that we go, I don't know what that would look like. God, that could be a tough one. That could turn messy on me. I don't have control, God, if I were to give that to you, and I don't know what you would do with it. Honestly, right? We all have, again, it's better for us to be honest about this than for us to try to just give God the answer we think he wants to hear. And so I don't want to add any guilt or shame or blame or anything to that for us. Let's just be aware of it and acknowledge it to go, yeah, there are parts of our life that are easier to give over to God than others. Few people have these intersection moments with Jesus, right? You have this guy named Nicodemus. You know it was hard for him to give over, what part of his life is hard to give over to Jesus? That church kind of part. He was really involved in, well, let's just, translate it to our terms. He was really involved with youth group. He was really involved with it. He was like one of the students that was really kind of helping lead the thing. And yet, when Jesus goes, no, I want to walk with you every part of your life. And he's just going, well, wait a minute. That looks different from what we're doing at church. That looks different from what like my friends in the youth group are. And that was hard for Nicodemus. It took courage for him to say, okay, God, if I live that way, I'm going to have courage to step out and live differently among my friends at church. Okay? Mark 9. There's a dad, and we touched on this last night, but there's a dad who the crisis in his life was so huge, so painful, that looking at Jesus, he went, I want to give this to you. I don't know how. Like, this crisis is so up in my face and so hard, and I don't know how to get through it. I want to give this over to you, God, but I don't know how to do it. Okay? This Samaritan woman, her relationships, her romantic relationships, became an area of her life that was pretty difficult and wasn't so sure she wanted to give over to God. And Jesus and they had this incredible exchange, and her starting to go, well, wait a minute. You're asking me to invite God into every part of my life, including those relationships, right? On and on and on. You see these intersection moments throughout the Gospels with people coming in line with Jesus, and he hits them with that spot that's hard for them to give over to God. In your notes there, it's got a little square box. I want you to write this verse in there. Colossians 3:23. Okay? Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men. This is just kind of this little snapshot statement that kind of with a punch kind of gets at what Jesus is talking about. He's saying, I want you to live a way of life that invites God into every part of your life. So whatever you do. Okay, what is included in the word, within the word whatever? Everything, right? Is there anything that's not included in whatever you do? No, right? So he's saying everything about your life, whatever you do, wherever you go, whatever you're in, do it the very best you can. So here's the thing. You play an instrument and you kind of have some talent at it? Awesome. Go for it. As an act of worship to God. You love to play soccer? Fantastic. How awesome that God has given you those talents and abilities to play that sport well. Worship God with it. Do you start to see this little subtle change in the way you view your life? Whatever you do the best you can as an act of worship to God. Okay, right below that little box, I just want you to write the reference, Romans 12, 1 and 2. Romans 12, 1 and 2. Basically, these two verses, in a little different way, say the same thing. Okay? Romans 12, verses 1 and 2. Romans 12, 1 and 2 it goes, therefore, in view of God's mercy, in other words, therefore, in view of everything that Jesus has done for you, both dying on the cross so that shalom can happen, right? Your broken cup can be restored so you have the capacity to know God and walk with him, but because of that, as well as him walking with you day by day, step by step, moment by moment, in view of God's mercy, and he says, offer your life as a living sacrifice to God. He said, this is your act of worship. And then it goes on and says, don't let the world squeeze you into its mold like a lump of Play-Doh. Like, it's paraphrase, but that's what it's saying. Don't let the world shape you and squeeze you into a mold like a lump of Play-Doh. Instead, let God transform your life from the inside out. Right? Basically what that Romans 12, 1 and 2 is saying, live your life as a walking thank you card to God. Where you're saying, wow, God, look what you're doing in my life. Thank you. In whatever you do, right? Those two little passages, power-packed, just short statements of God inviting you to walk with him with every aspect of your life. Honest reflection moment. It's a shift in the way we think, right? It's a shift in the way we perceive our life. We're going, yeah, God, you are a part of my life. You are that slice of pizza, and maybe, God, I'll give you a really huge slice. Versus saying that Colossians 3:23, that C3:23, okay, Jesus, I'm going to look at you as the crust of my pizza. And so that every single slice of my life, wherever I go, whatever I do, Jesus, you are that crust. You're the thing that holds it together. You are a part of every aspect of my life. God's inviting us to look at our life differently. And he's inviting us to say, God, would you be part of every aspect? That's not easy. It's not easy. There's going to be some parts of your life that will be easier than others to invite God and walk with him in. There's going to be some parts where you're going to be, day by day, go, okay, God, again, I'm going to invite you into this part of my life. And then the next day, okay, God, I'm going to invite you again. Right? It's like building those muscles. This has become one of my favorite stories in the Bible. This guy named Jairus, and then there's this lady who's got an illness. In Mark chapter 5, if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn there, because I want us to kind of, maybe you'll see some verses you want to underline and highlight there. Jairus, he helps run a synagogue. He helps run a church. He's got a 12-year-old daughter, 6th grader. He's got a daughter who's in 6th grade. She's really sick, like really, really sick. They come up to Jesus and say, hey, you know Jairus. Yep, I know him. Been to his church. His daughter's really sick. He needs help. His daughter needs help. And Jesus goes, okay, let's go help her. And they've seen Jesus heal other people, so everybody knows what's about to happen. And all of a sudden, there's this huge crowd of people around, right? And they're all kind of heading over to Jairus' house. And while this crowd is around, all these people, there's this lady who's in the crowd. Now, this lady who's been sick for 12 years. Now, it's pretty fun that like multiple gospels who tell this story, they all kind of keep popping up the 12 girls, 12 years old. This lady was sick for 12 years. I think what's about to happen here is God making a point, okay? She's been suffering for 12 years. She's gone to doctors to try to get healed, and it hasn't worked. She spent a lot of money trying to fix this problem, and it just isn't happening. She sees Jesus, and she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. So skip down to verse 27. Verse 27 and verse 28, these would be great verses to circle or underline. She had heard about Jesus, and she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Now, there's a lot packed in there that Mark just quickly throws out. In the Old Testament, there is this little passage that kind of gave this picture of that the Messiah, when he comes, he would have healing in his wings, right? This kind of picture of the Messiah would be a person who would bring healing, and people would be healed. And they used this phrase, he'd bring healing in his wings. Well, they used that same word to describe like the kind of robe, shawl kind of thing that people would put over their shoulders as they're walking around. And those things had tassels on them at the bottom. And there was a specific reason why they put those on and had them there. And so this lady, she knows, she goes, Jesus is the Messiah. He's the Holy One of God. And she knows her Bible. She goes, it says that when the Messiah comes, he will have healing in his wings. And I've been sick for 12 years. I know that all I have to do is grab a hold of that tassel on his robe, and I will be healed because he's the Messiah. And so you have this crowd, and she comes sneaking up behind him and grabs a hold of the tassel on the bottom of his robe. And take a look. Mark chapter 5, verse 30. Circle this. Jesus at once, he realizes at once the healing power had gone out from him, and he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" This is just one of those fun moments where it's like, I just picture this, like all of you, say there's no chairs here, we're all kind of crowded around and we're all kind of walking down the street and it's just people are bumping into each other, and all of a sudden Jesus stops and goes, "Whoa, who touched me? Who touched the tassel?" Now, the disciples are like, "Are you kidding me? Who hasn't touched you?" Like, right? Do you see how many people are in here? And this lady goes, "It was me. It was me. I did. Because I know who you are, and I know what the Bible promises." And Jesus looks at her and goes, "You got it. You got it. And yeah, you are healed." Now, this intersection moment with this lady, yes, it was about this lady being healed after suffering for 12 years, but it wasn't for her. I'm convinced that the reason why this lady gets healed in the way she does, at the moment she does, is because it is exactly what Jairus needed at that moment. Okay? The significant moment where God intersects this lady's life wasn't for her, it was for Jairus. Take a look. Look at verse 35. While he was still speaking to her, Jairus' daughter is sick. We're supposed to be getting over there, and Jesus stopped to start talking to this lady. And while he's talking to her, messengers arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. They told him, "Your daughter is dead. It's too late. She's died. Don't trouble Jesus anymore. It's over." Look at verse 36. But Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just have faith." I wonder, now this is my own mind's eye, this is not in the Bible, but I wonder if as Jesus is saying this, he's got Jairus over here, and he looks over at this lady, and he goes, "Don't be afraid. Look what just happened. Do you know who I am?" He goes, "Jairus, I know this part of your life seems really difficult right now and really hopeless. But look what just happened in this lady's life. This happened so that you would hear it at the moment you needed it most." There are going to be times where God is working and moving in your life, and it's important for you to share those stories with your friends and your family, because you never know what God might be having going on in someone else's life, that they're the ones that they actually need that. Okay, a couple years ago, Jonathan, for an assignment, memorizing one of the Psalms. I'm hearing that psalm repeated over and over again in our house as he's trying to memorize it, right? I've got a list of guys that I'm praying for. I'm sending them an email. I'm going, hey, just wanted you to know I was praying for you today. And by the way, I've got this psalm rattling around in my brain. I've almost got it memorized because he's memorizing it. And I'm like, I'm praying through this psalm for you. And I sent it out to a handful of these guys throughout the week that I was praying for. About a week later, I get a text from one of them saying, hey, Saturday morning, would you have some time for me to give you a call? Yeah, that's fine, no problem. So he gives me a call on Saturday morning, and he goes, this has been a really hard couple of weeks. Okay. He goes, and he tells me the story of his wife is pregnant. They just lost their baby. And they're going through that whole process with it. And they had this tiny little funeral, just him and his wife, the immediate family, the pastor thing. He helped, him and a family member built a little casket for the baby. This was a painful, painful moment. And he said they're sitting there at the funeral, and the pastor read from a psalm. And he's just sitting there going, wait a minute. I just heard that recently. And he flips, and he pulls up his emails, and he sees this email from a few days earlier where he's saying, hey, you know what? God was just prompting me to be praying for you. And by the way, I've been praying through this psalm for you. And it was the same psalm that the pastor had used at that funeral. And he just said, you have no idea what that meant, that God was preparing me for this moment through that email from you, and then to come and see that again. And he was just saying, thank you for that intersection moment of not me, my son, memorizing a psalm that God used and sparked and said, hey, you know what, you should just kick this out to a friend. Just say, hey, praying for you, and here's a few verses that I'm praying through for you. And the moment he needed it most, God used that. You see how do you see how that could kind of work? When God said, this is what it looks like to be friends who follow Jesus together as he's pouring out his grace and his goodness in our life, and starts to overflow and spill and splash into the lives of other people. What an amazing, messy life. That God would use us in that way, back and forth. I want you to just take a second and just be really honest with God. And maybe it's just writing some notes. I know the other side of the page there is blank. Is there an area in your life where you go, God, this is a hard one to give to you. I don't know how to do it. I don't know if I want to do it. Right? What's difficult for you to give over to God? What makes it difficult? Honestly, maybe it's a family member that you go, they just don't make it easy for me to follow God in this aspect of my life. Maybe there's a friendship that you have there where you go, it becomes hard when we, maybe it's some ambition that you have that you're afraid of going, God, if I invite you into this part of my life, does that mean I'm giving up this ambition, this thing I want to go after? And that's keeping you from inviting God into that part of your life. Maybe there's some pain or that romance. Maybe there's this dream or this fear. I don't know. This list could go on and on, right? This is just a handful of just ideas to get you thinking. Is there a part of your life that's hard to give over to God? And take a second to go, why? Why is it? Why is this thing hard for me? And jot down some notes. It might seem or feel difficult to start to hand some of these things over to God. And I'm not promising you that once you do, everything's awesome, right? Lego movie, anybody? Okay, best movie, no. I'm not going to promise you that. Good friend of mine, his name is Ken. He was in high school, freshman, big guy. Hey, hi Ken, how you doing, right? We went to different high schools, but we were good friends. We went to the same youth group together. Freshmen in high school, they say, you're a big dude. You're starting varsity basketball. Let's go. And he basically, he went, okay, I'll do that. Not easy for a freshman to be on the varsity basketball team. That means there's a junior or a senior out there somewhere who's not playing because this freshman kid, right? But Ken went, I want to invite God to be a part of every part of my life. And so part of his pregame routine, he would just sit in the locker room off by himself, open up, he had this tiny little Bible, he would open it up and just read through a psalm, take a second to pray, put the little Bible back in his bag and be ready to go for the game. His teammates made fun of him every time he did it, which, right, it happens. Not easy, not good, but it happens. Now, when his coach started making fun of him every time he did it, that made it even harder. But he just went, God, I wanted you to be a part of every part of my life, and I love basketball, and it's a big slice of my pizza, and so I don't know how to do this right, and it's messy, so he tried. One of the best things that happened was sophomore year, one of his friends was promoted up to the varsity basketball team. And so now the two of them were just being made fun of all the time by everybody else, including the coach, for just taking a couple minutes right before the game, read through a psalm, take a minute to pray, and then just go out and play basketball. But they just felt like, okay, this is what God's asking us to do, and they got made fun of every year. And they didn't make a big deal of it. They didn't go, all right, we're going to go over to the corner now, and we're going to, and you're, no, they just kind of quiet did. But you know what happened over the years? They said by the time they were seniors in high school, it was a little harder for other people to be making fun of them because they'd been around a while. They noticed that over the years, whether it was before or after a game or during practice, riding on the bus back from an away game, they said every single one of the people that they had played with that on their team, at some point or other, would come slide up to them and go, okay, I see the way you guys live. And I've got this thing going on in my life, and I don't get it. And they're just sitting there going, okay. And God just started opening doors. Now, was it painful and difficult at times? Yeah. But they said, okay, God, we're going to give you every aspect of our life, including this one called basketball. We had another student, sophomore year in high school, right? He was captain of the soccer team. Now, I got to just be honest with it. He was very good at soccer, but this is also back in the day. This is long enough ago that soccer wasn't really that big of a deal. So to be the captain, sure. Sorry. Not dissing any soccer players out there. It just wasn't what it is today, all right? But he just started to go, I want to overflow with my life with God. And it wasn't it just became a natural thing. It wasn't a forced thing. It wasn't like, it was just naturally, hey, this is what God's doing in my life and stuff. And no joke, slice of my pizza pie is school, right? And as he's at school and he's talking with his friends and he's just kind of naturally going, hey, this is what God's doing in my life and here's how God's involved in my life. His English teacher starts listening in. No joke. After a couple months of school go by, the English teacher, as dismissing class, she goes, hey, Josh, I want to talk to you after class. Okay, great. What did I do? I thought I turned everything in, right? And she goes, I want you to know, I've been watching you. I see how you're living. I've heard the stories about how much God means to you. I know this is kind of weird, but I want you to know that I'm following Jesus now. What? He had no idea that as he was just going through life and said, God, I want you to be a part of this school piece of slice, that his teacher is seeing his life and seeing how much God means to him. And his teacher said, wait a second. There's something there that I don't get. And I want to start following Jesus too. Story after story of students over the years who have taught us a ton of what it looks like to begin to invite Jesus into slices of their life. The 7th grader who's looked at his buddy and goes, you want to know God? You want to follow God? And his friend went, yeah, actually I do. No one else in that kid's family knows God. 7th grader and 7th grader. Within a year and a half, this kid, his entire family starts following Christ. Why? Okay, God, there's this slice of my life called family. And I'm going to invite you into it. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to do this. This is kind of messy, but here you go. And we get to see some amazing things. I want you to take a second and just spend some time praying. Where are you at, honestly? Does Jesus have a slice of your life? Or are you going, God, I don't know how to do this completely, but I want to begin to invite you into every part of my life? Is there an area of your life that's more difficult than others to give to God? Well, be honest with him. Talk with him about that. I'm going to give you just a minute or two, just quietly on your own. Do some wrestling with God. I'm just going to end with this simple prayer. 1 Peter 1:2. May God give you more and more, that overflowing cup, right? More and more grace and peace, right? That shalom, that broken, restoring to wholeness and completeness. May God give you abundantly more and more, overflowing his grace and his peace as you walk with him day by day, step by step, moment by moment. So, thanks, guys.